Tuesday. And Ashley is the director of the Career Center?
Yep,
Okay.
at Northern Essex.
At Northern Essex Community College, and she's here to talk about your professional brand and getting into professional life. Is that accurate, Ashley?
Yeah, just kind of the job search and how to navigate things during COVID and developing your professional brand and kind of just whatever you have questions about regarding your jobs or careers. So.
Okay, and Ashley's going to speak for approximately 45 minutes. She's going to take some questions before and after. And you all set, Ashley?
I am. I'm good. Let me pull up my PowerPoint. First of all, what high school are you guys from?
Haverhill.
Haverhill High? Okay, awesome. Is there anything in particular regarding your job search that you want to make sure we talk about today before I start?
I'd say roughly half of them already have jobs. Is that what we figured out last week?
Summer jobs. Okay. Anybody considering doing like internships too, or are you just kind of looking for summer work right now?
I want to do an internship.
Sorry, I can't hear you. What'd you say?
I was going to do an internship until this happened.
Yeah, this definitely has thrown a wrench in some plans. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well, kind of what to do in the meantime. Anybody else have anything specific that they were kind of looking to talk about or look into? No? Okay, well, please feel free as we go along. If you have questions throughout my presentation, you want to raise your hand in Zoom, I'm happy to take them, or we can wait till the end and go over. But as Dave said, my name is Ashley Moore. I'm the Director of Career Services at Northern Essex. And I want to share some tips and tricks with you today, but I also wanted to let you know that as early college students, you are Northern Essex students as well, and you have full access to all of our services. So you're welcome to set up an appointment with us. We're not meeting in person right now, obviously. We're meeting virtually, but we can help you with anything related to your career. So I will show you how to access our services further along in this presentation. Let me pull up my PowerPoint. Can everyone see that okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Present. Okay, so today I'm going to talk about job searching and building your professional brand, specifically geared to how to do that when you're in high school. And I wanted to start by, I recently wrote a piece for Northern Essex students and alumni about how to navigate the job search during COVID-19, because this is obviously unprecedented and something that we're all facing with and learning as we go. So one of the main things is as you're trying to search for a job, whether it's a summer job or an internship, you really need to remain positive and patient. So one of the biggest things that I've heard from employers is that they're trying to figure it out as well. They're trying to figure out whether or not they can open and under what circumstances they can open. They might be trying to figure out, are people going to be remote? And if that's the case, how are they going to bring a new remote employee on? How are they going to interview you remotely? So it's good to just be patient and know that this process, finding a job right now, might take a little bit longer. And it's also okay to think outside the box right now. So you might be thinking, well, I really wanted to get an internship in environmental science or whatever it might be, to get some experience. You can think outside the box and say, what other opportunities might help me get experience that is similar to, what I'm looking for that I might not be able to access right now. It's really important to network. So we'll talk about that later in the presentation, but you need to be reaching out to all people in your network. And your network is probably bigger than you think it is. So we'll talk about how to access your network. And for those of you who are saying that you were thinking of doing an internship, but maybe that hasn't panned out because of the pandemic, there's other ways that you can utilize your time effectively. One way that I'm suggesting for the college students is to really practice virtual interviews. So whether we like it or not, virtual interviews are going to be a thing moving forward. So regardless of whether there's a pandemic situation, you're going to be faced with most likely some sort of remote interview in the future. And so it's really important now to be researching what makes a good virtual interview. How do you handle yourself during a virtual interview? And you guys are getting comfortable on Zoom because of your classwork, so that's awesome. But even more importantly, you should practice an interview with someone in career services or a friend so that you can get a feel for how to answer those questions. You also want to consider how you address challenges. So one of the big things that I've heard from employers right now is when they interview candidates after this pandemic, they're going to really want to know, what did you do during this time? How did you spend your time? How did you address the challenges that you faced? You know, and so you want to be able to be prepared to talk about, you know, this was a really difficult situation for whatever reason, and how you faced those challenges and overcame them. But there's also other ways you can spend your time right now. You can be proactive. So say you had a job lined up and the employer has since reached out and said, I'm sorry, like we can't offer you this position anymore because of the pandemic. You could stay in touch with that person and reach out to them and say, hey, I understand that this job didn't work out. Is there anything that I can help you with remotely in the meantime? Maybe there's a special project that they want you to do, or maybe, you know, your generation is really good at social media. Maybe you could help them promote their services at home on social media. So think about ways that you might be able to help that person, or help the company you're working with that are outside the box. You can also volunteer your time. So if you were interested in maybe majoring in business or communications in the future, you could reach out to a business and say, hey, you know, is there something that I can do? Can I come in one day a week or help you remotely one day a week with your social media? Or maybe it's a special project in Excel, something like that. Just be proactive and also take the time to work on you. You know, it's impressive that all of you are in high school and taking college level classes. That's immediately such a great thing to highlight and to put on your resume. But there's other things you can do. You could set up a challenge for yourself. You could, you know, participate in some kind of race. You could do, you know, learn a musical instrument or take online classes to learn a new technology, whatever it might be. This is a time for you to work on yourself as well. And of course, making sure you connect with us so that we can help you. Did you have a question, Dave?
Not me.
Okay, sorry. So one of the important things that I wanted to highlight is what's called a hidden job market. So I'm sure that many of you have heard before, it's not necessarily what you know, it's who you know. And so if you've ever gone to look for a job, sometimes you'll find that you've talked to a neighbor and you learn that the grocery store is hiring, or you know, the local retail shop is looking for someone and they want to recommend you. That's kind of how a lot of jobs pan out. It's estimated that only about 15 to 33% of jobs are actually posted online. And a lot of people spend a lot of time applying for jobs online. I don't know how many of you have done this, but I've spent time filling out online applications that take forever. And you submit these online applications and you never hear back from anybody. What people are suggesting is that you really need to make sure that you're not only applying online, but you're reaching out to your network and you're figuring out who knows who can recommend you to different job opportunities. So when you think about your network, who are some of the people that are in your network?
Your parents.
Your parents, yep. Who else?
Like former bosses or like people that you've worked for before?
Absolutely, yep. Former coworkers, former supervisors.
Your teachers.
Yes, your teachers. Anybody else?
There's a really obvious one they're missing.
Your friends.
Like guidance counselors, so it goes for teachers.
Did you say guidance counselors?
Yeah.
Yep. And Dave said a really obvious one is your friends, so your classmates. And so, yeah, it's true. Like your family, your friends, your coworkers, your professors, people you volunteer with, sorry, I can't see because all the faces are behind it, your clubs and organizations, and your classmates. So I like to think of any opportunity as a networking opportunity. You never know who you could meet in line at the coffee shop when we're actually allowed to go into the coffee shop. So it's a good thing to just reach out. You don't know who Professor Radigan knows or who people in your career services. We talk to employers all the time. So it's not unlikely. I was just sending an email to an alumni. I received an email from someone who was hiring a job in environmental science, and I know she's been looking. So the first thing I did was forward it along to her. So be sure to connect with people in your network and let them know, like, I'm looking for a summer job, or I'm looking for an internship in accounting to get experience. Whatever it might be, the more you tell people your goals, the more they'd be able to help you. And I always say to students, one of the biggest things, we used to host a big networking night at NECC, and I used to hear from, the students in computer science, and they'd say, well, I don't necessarily want to go to that because I don't see anyone in computer science that's going to attend. And I said, that's not really the point. Like, you don't know who's going to be attending that night, who might have a neighbor who works at Amazon, or who might have a sister-in-law who is hiring for a computer science job at Wayfair. So you never know who knows people in your network. And obviously, you're going to want to have a few key things for your job search. For you guys at this point, I would say a cover letter and a resume, and we can work with you in career services on that. I always recommend to students just have like one master resume that has everything on it, and a nice cover letter that you can take and edit when you need to apply for different jobs. This might be a little too early for you guys to be thinking about, but not necessarily. It might not be a bad time for you to think about setting up a LinkedIn profile. So LinkedIn is a social media platform, but it's for professionals. So you would share, you would follow companies that you might be interested in, share information about the jobs that you might be interested in. So it's very professionally driven. But you can also connect with people in your field. If anyone's an art student out there, or if you're interested in the technology field, portfolios could be really good for you. So if you're really interested in art and design, you want to be a fashion designer, you want to work in graphic design, and you are actually doing work right now, or you're using Adobe Photoshop, whatever it might be, if you're an aspiring photographer, it's not a bad idea to start putting together a portfolio of your work so that you can actually be prepared to share that with someone for an internship. And now's the time to really be thinking about, when we talk about professional brand, you're at the perfect stage in your life right now where you really should be thinking about how you're using social media and how it's helping you with your brand. There's different ways, pros and cons with social media, but social media can be an amazing tool for you to either launch a career, to become an influencer in a particular field, whatever it might be. Social media is an amazingly powerful tool. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on your resume today, because that's not the point of this presentation. But again, we can set up an appointment and go over your resume, no problem. We always ask for you to have a draft resume when you come meet with us, and we'll help you go through it and edit it. But things that, as you're putting together your resume, things that don't belong on a resume. So personal pronouns. You don't want to ever say, I did this, I did that. Resumes are meant to be very brief and phrase-based, to the point, getting off the most relevant information that you have. I have resumes that get submitted with people's pictures on them. This is not the place for you to put a picture unless you're going into the modeling industry. It's really not acceptable in the United States to put a picture on a resume. We also want to be thinking about what our email address looks like and whether it's professional. All right, so I've seen so many different emails, but thinking about things like Snow Bunny and Video Gamer, like those are not professional emails. You want something that is your name, your first and last name at gmail.com, something very standard. And that's a great way to start applying for jobs, is using a professional email. When, I know for me, my name is pretty common, so it's hard to find a Gmail account with Ashley Moore. So we have to put like numbers into our email. One of the first things that we're tempted to do is put our birth date. And any ideas why you might not want to put the year of your birth in your email address? Anybody know why
It's
that
just
might?
too revealing. Like, you don't want to make yourself like susceptible.
So yeah, so it's your name and another piece of personal identification information. So,
Right.
Yep, that could be a good reason not to. Any other thoughts on it? So one thing you need to think about is age discrimination. So first of all, typically an employer, not so much when you're applying for summer jobs because they need to make sure that you're actually able to work legally and so on and so forth. But as you grow in your professional career, employers are not supposed to be asking you your age on an application. And so what I say to students is it might not matter to you now. You might be like, oh, it doesn't matter. However, when you get to a certain age, over 40, I know that seems like a long way off, but when you get to that age is actually protected on a job application. So you would never want to give that information away because the employer could say, oh, this candidate's way too young, like they're still in high school based on their birth date, or this candidate's way too old. We want someone more young and more tech savvy, whatever it might be. So you never want to have that opportunity for bias in your job search. And then also, just because I've seen all of this, I always say, you don't need to put your social security number. You don't need to put your date of birth, all those crazy things. That does not belong on a resume. And you should always check your voicemail. So just as I was saying for a professional email address, you want to make sure your voicemail sounds really professional too when you're job searching. So think about what your voicemail sounds like. And making sure you have, no grammar and spelling issues. And again, we can help with that in career services. So what I always say to my students is that one of the most important things on your resume is really highlighting what you did at your job. So I'm assuming that most of you have had some sort of work experience at some point. So you worked in a part-time job, or maybe you volunteered, or maybe you just are really active at Haverhill High. You're involved in every club and organization, you're the president of student council, whatever it might be. It's really important to share what you did in those roles. And you want to think about things that are accomplishment statements. So not just, I took out the trash, I, worked at McDonald's and handled the drive-through line. You want to think about, is there anything that is an accomplishment? Were you recognized for Employee of the Month? Did you go above and beyond in your role? Were you promoted in any way? So think about those things that can be accomplishments. And then think through, okay, what is it that I did? How did I do it? And why did I do it? So none of us, hopefully, have been hired for no reason at all. There's always a role that you're playing at your company. And so you want to always think about the why. Why was that important? How did I help? And I can share these slides with you too, so you can kind of have this guideline, but this is a really good guideline for developing bullet points for your resume. And other things that you should be highlighting on your resume at this point in your career are activities, clubs, involvement at school, leadership. Many of you, I'm sure, are, play sports, or, you took on leadership roles in sports, you received accolades, or your team went to, certain championships, whatever it might be. Perhaps you were active in theater. Like, put all of those things belong on your document. It shows that you're really well-rounded, and that you're, getting involved in school. I love seeing volunteer experience or any community engagement, getting involved with local politics or whatever that might be. Those are really great ways to, again, show that you're involved in your community. And highlight your early college experience, because it is impressive that you're in high school and you're taking college level classes and doing both. I think that's really, really, it shows initiative. It shows you're going above and beyond. And any kind of skills that you want to highlight that are relevant to you, or awards or honors that you've received. I want to stop here. Is there any questions about resumes specifically so far that anyone has? No, we're good? Okay. Does everyone have a resume?
I do.
You do? Okay. It's not a bad idea to, again, keep us in the loop and ask for help. We're really good at formatting, making resumes look really professional, getting it down to one page if you're having trouble with that. But there's a lot of ways that you can format and design your resume to make it uniquely your own without, again, putting fancy borders or whatever we don't typically allow on documents. I would recommend that if you've used a template for your resume, to remove it from the template. I don't like templates for a lot of reasons. One being that once you go to edit it in the future, it's really hard to add information back on your document. And two, as someone who looks at a lot of resumes, I can immediately tell if someone's using a template. So, so you want to have a unique document that is your own, that's professional looking, and we can help you with that. But again, I'll share these slides with Professor Radigan so he can share with your class. But these are some ways that you can design and format your resume.
One thing I just wanted to add to that actually is I do this with as a capstone for my UMass Lowell students, and they do a thing on job searching, and so I look at their resumes, and the two things that I'm always a little surprised by, but I understand is, one is grammatical issues.
Yeah.
It really is something you should check, and I always tell them, I said, run it by the Career Center at UMass Lowell, because it's just getting a fresh set of eyes alone is a good way to catch mistakes, because your brain just sometimes will see a kind of an obvious error, and it will just override it, because your brain will just kind of it'll correct it so you don't even actually see it, if that makes sense. And then the other thing that I see a lot with resumes is a really inconsistent format, inconsistent style, and obviously bring it to the Career Center. You've got people who probably look for that. They're used to looking for that, and they're going to spot that. The other thing is, at a young age, almost everybody will do a chronological resume, but there are sometimes, particularly for those students, but also sometimes probably for somebody who's done a lot of volunteer work or done projects in school, that but have also had part-time jobs, where maybe the volunteer experience or something should be stressed over the part-time job experience. I'm thinking, if you were going to try for an internship and you had done things for let's say the environmental club at school, or you had done a Boy Scout project that was environmental, like an Eagle Scout project, and then you were looking for a job or an internship with an environmental company, you might want to lead with that versus having the chronological, delivered pizzas for, at this place from this year to this year, and then, worked in a retail store from this year to this year.
Yeah, those are great points, Dave. It's always really important to highlight the most relevant pieces. And why I said at the beginning that you should have a master resume with everything on it at this point is because you are going to want to tailor your document to jobs that you're applying for. And as Professor Radigan had said, there are going to be times when you do put things out of order to highlight the most relevant pieces, because you're ultimately positioning yourself for that future goal. And just one thing I would add to highlight, I absolutely agree. There's nothing that bothers me more than inconsistent formatting. So we would definitely help you with that. Make sure that things are consistent. But when a person hiring sees grammar or spelling errors on a document, it's often a very easy way for them to put you in the no pile, regardless of how great of a candidate you are. And the reason being is that as a hiring manager, I might have 80 resumes in front of me, and I might be looking for ways to cut that stack down. And the way that hiring managers look at that is they say, if this person didn't care enough to run a spell check on this document or to have someone else look at it and pay attention to that detail, I don't want them in this role. And that's particularly important if you're applying for a job that attention to detail, for example, is one of the top qualities that they're looking for. So be really careful about that. That's really important. Build your professional brand. If you can determine what social media platform works best for you, and if you're in a particular industry, so we talk about this a lot at Northern Essex. If you're a business student, be really active on LinkedIn. If you're someone who's in art and design, maybe Instagram is a better option for you. If you're in communications or journalism, Twitter is probably going to be the platform that you want to use. So think about, what do you want to do in the future, and what platform do you really want to get involved in? For anyone who's interested in the tech world or computer science, for example, there's a platform called GitHub where you can actually go in and it's a platform for computer science students, for example, to share their code. And that's how companies find talent in computer science, is they actually find people who are sharing code and seeing what they do on GitHub and hiring them that way. So it can be such an amazing opportunity to create your brand. But the one caution I would give you is that there's nothing protecting you from an employer Google searching your name, and whatever's out there is out there. So employers are often using social media platforms as a recruitment tool. So if they're looking for a candidate, they're often looking for candidates maybe through social media platforms, like I was just explaining with GitHub. They also will Google you. If you're applying for a job, they're going to Google you and they're going to see what comes up. And if your social media accounts are wide open and you have nothing protected and you're posting about what you did last weekend with your friends at a party, that's all going to be seen. And so I've known people, I've coached people that have lost jobs over social media posts. Be really careful about that. So that's my one caution about it, but the sky's the limit in terms of using that as a platform to develop your brand. And I would say it's really important to know where to search for jobs. So, depending on what you guys are looking for, if you're looking for summer job opportunities, again, reaching out to your network is huge. My husband, for example, is a huge golfer, and one of our family friends was looking for a summer job, and he knows the pro up at Keys Country Club, and she said, "Oh, can you reach out to him?" And she got a job. Like, that's kind of sometimes how things happen. So reach out to your network, see who they know, see how they can help you. But you can also search for jobs on Indeed, for example. I'm going to show you NECC link, which is our Northern Essex job board. I'm going to show you that at the end of the presentation. But if you're looking for internships, for example, NECC link would be a great place for you to start. I'm also going to show you where I've included all of our job search resources on the website for you. So it's really important to kind of broaden your job search, and depending on what you're looking for, whether it's part-time or like an internship right now, it will kind of depend on where you end up searching for those roles. One of my biggest pet peeves is making sure that you actually are communicating professionally when you reach out. So at this stage in your job search, you might not be writing a formal cover letter, and that's fine. But you probably will have to send your resume through email. And so you can already see the difference between these two emails and what's good and what's bad. So you want to be thinking about, you're presenting yourself as a professional. So writing an email like this one here on the left, addressing the person as hey, kind of abbreviating words and talking like you're texting, that's not a way to professionally present yourself. This email on the right is a lot more professional. Obviously, it's a lot more appropriate for sending your resume along. and it's going to help you stand out in the job search. So little things like that while you're in high school are going to be really important. As you transition to more applying for more internships or your first full-time job after your associate's or bachelor's degree, then you're going to see more of the cover letter come into play. So I also wanted to just talk about some professionalism. As you get to work and have your jobs, you know, there's things that are going to help you set yourself apart. And to, you know, when we talked about building your resume and thinking about, were you promoted? Were you recognized as Employee of the Month? You know, there's behaviors that are going to help influence those decisions. Obviously, something that's going to really impact that is your attendance and whether or not you show up on time. Very simple things. But if you think about, you know, I'm sure you can all think about a time that you've worked with someone who didn't show up and you had to cover their shift, or was always late for their shift and you had to pick up the slack. That doesn't necessarily help your motivation either. So it's always good to be the person who shows up, you know, consistently for work, you know, communicate when you have an issue. We all run into issues in our jobs, right? You could be driving to work and get a flat tire, or you break down, whatever it might be. Just make sure that you communicate that with your employer. But showing up early and being ready to work when your shift starts is super important. It's going to show your dedication, your motivation, and that you're a reliable person. So when you start to go ask for those recommendations in the future, your employer is going to be a good recommendation for you. Another thing to consider is the body language that you use. So, you know, if you are in a field that you're working with customers all the time, you know, standing with your arms crossed or rolling your eyes, like if you're an eye roller, know those things about yourself that might put someone off and might say, okay, that person's body language is not very welcoming, not very professional. So just kind of know those things about yourself and how to control them. I talk a lot with my hands. You can't see it necessarily because I'm in Zoom, but I'm constantly talking with my hands, and that's something that, you know, I need to make sure when I'm in a social situation that I don't like hit somebody or knock over a drink or whatever it might be. So those are important things to understand about your body language and to help demonstrate professionalism. And you don't have to admit it, but usually when I ask this question, has anyone ever worked with someone who is super negative all the time? You know, no matter what you say to them, they might say the opposite. It's incredibly disheartening to have to work with someone who has a negative attitude. So if you find yourself demonstrating negative attitudes at the workplace, you know, try to reverse that. Try to reframe how you're thinking about things or what you're saying. You know, when you can demonstrate a positive attitude, that really goes far in the workplace. And, you know, everybody's entitled to a bad day, but sometimes, you know, you have to put on a good face when you show up at work because that's your job to do so, right? So just think about, you know, again, that level of professionalism. And then as you get, you know, more into your career, some of you might be interested in working in the healthcare field, for example. You know, it's really important to respect confidentiality in those fields and in a lot of different fields, not just healthcare. So say you're interning at Anna Jake's Hospital or Lawrence General, you know, you're getting experience. It's not professional to then go out with your friends and be like, oh, you never would have believed who I saw today at Anna Jake's, right? That's a violation of the patient's confidentiality. So really making sure that you hold those, the sensitivity of your work to the highest regard. Any questions or comments before we move on? No? Okay. So I'm just going to end my presentation by sharing our services at the Career Center at Northern Essex. For those of you who don't know, NECC Link is our online career services. So it's where all employers go to post jobs and internships. What's nice about this site is that these employers are specifically reaching out to the college and saying, hey, we want to work with you. We want to partner with you. We want to hire your students and your alumni. And so that's where they would post, and you can set up searches. So if you don't have an account, most of the students, so what we do is we automatically upload student accounts at the beginning of the semester. If for whatever reason you missed that email or you don't have access to your account, just contact us and we'll reset your account for you or get you all set up. And so you can have access to that. But you would submit your resume directly through the system and it would get reviewed by our staff, and then you could apply for these jobs. And what's also nice is that we set up customized job emails for you. So say this is an example of someone who's a journalism student. Okay, so any of the journalism type jobs that are in this system, this student, Andrew, would get an email on a bi-weekly basis with these jobs that he might want to apply for. And you can see there's some really great, there's working on a congressional campaign, working at for a news internship, working for NBC Sports Boston. So they're really targeted depending on what your major is. So to find it, and again, I'm going to bring you to the website so that you can see this too, but you would go to Career Services. Actually, it's under the Succeed tab here on the website, and you'd go to Career Services, and then you'd click on Online Career Services NECC link. And this is what your profile would look like too. So you'd be able to search for those jobs, apply for them, etc. Okay. Another tool that we have, I'm actually going to stop sharing and bring you into our virtual job shadow platform to show you this. Can you see virtual job shadow right now?
Yes.
Okay, so virtual job shadow, again, you'll have access to this as NECC students. You have to reach out to Career Services so that we can set you up with an account. But this is a library of thousands of different careers that you can search and explore. So within the system, you can actually take a variety of assessments. So there's different assessments that you can take. Say you've never done a career assessment before, you have absolutely no idea what you want to study in college. This is a great platform to start to take a career assessment and to help narrow down those ideas. So once you take an assessment, say for example, it will show you what your results are. It will show, okay, this student, their number one career is architecture and construction, but they're also interested in business management, hospitality, marketing, and sales. So they could then search and look at career paths in marketing and communications, marketing, sales, and service, and see all these different career paths. So say they want to be an event manager. They can go in, and it actually has videos of people who are working as event managers talking about what they love about their job, what challenges them, how they got to be where they are today. And then there's all these short little videos that they can watch about short little questions and answers. And then along the side here, they can learn about the career description, what education level is required, what someone in this role would earn. And again, this is based on education level. So this is showing the Massachusetts earnings versus national. It will show whether it's a growth career. So whether this is a career you're going to have opportunities with in the future. And then additional information for you to find out, different roles and responsibilities, different information about that career path. I love this tool because it also shows what colleges in Massachusetts and elsewhere prepare you for a career in event management. And then of course this jobs and internships tab, what it will do is bring you to jobs that include event management, and you can either search in Haverhill or you can broaden your search. Let's see. This is associate manager. It will bring you to real job opportunities on Indeed. And there's a variety of different ways that you can search. So as high school students, one of the reasons why I love this, this tool is you can actually, can you see this screen here where I'm clicking on education? and it shows high school diploma. Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can search what can I do with a high school diploma, and you can search different jobs based on your education level. So if you're thinking about going to Northern Essex and you want to say, okay, like I really want an associate's degree in business, what kind of career paths can I do with my associates? Or maybe you want to get some kind of healthcare certificate or human services certificate, you can then search by certificate options as well. So it really will help you kind of explore those roles and then link it to, let me go back for a second. You can search like dental. So here's one of our programs, dental assisting, for example, and you can click on this jobs search tool and see within Haverhill, Mass. I don't know why this is coming up like this. Front office assistant and receptionist for a dental office. So it will come up with like different reception opportunities and then also dental assisting opportunities as well, it should. And apparently also USPS. But normally this will come up with relevant jobs for those industries. So that's virtual job shadow. And then the last thing I wanted to show you real quick is just our website. So if you go to, oops, this. So again, all of our services can be found under Succeed Career Services. And if you scroll down here, these are all of our services here. So when we're in semester, we have a bunch of events. We'll definitely most likely be all virtual events this fall. So we're going to be having virtual career fairs, virtual information sessions with companies that you're all welcome to attend. So any kind of event that we have would be posted here on this events workshop page. I had mentioned before that we had a job listings and search tool. So again, this is kind of a scrolling feed of opportunities from NECC Link here on the right. You can see kind of what's active in our system right now. And then on the left-hand side, we've added a bunch of resources for remote working. So under this remote working tab, you can actually see a bunch of information about remote job boards. So if you're interested in kind of getting a remote job right now, this would be the place you'd want to look. But then also there's all kinds of job search information about local, regional, if you want to have a national search. If you're looking for green or environmental friendly jobs, you can search there, summer and temporary work, etc. Online career services, this is where you would go to access NECC Link. And again, if you have any issues accessing your account or if you don't know your username and password, just reach out and we'll get you all set up for that. Another thing that I wanted to point out here is the internships tab. So if you came to Northern Essex, we have a great internship program. Most of our programs at Northern Essex have some sort of practicum or internship, which is a great way for you to build your resume, to get that experience before you graduate. But we've also recently launched a partnership with Parker Dewey, which is a company that does micro internships. Micro internships are just short, 15 to 40 hours total job opportunities. So if you're looking to make extra money, there's a variety of different micro internships there that you have access to. And our contact information is here on Contact Career Services. You can reach out to myself, Noreen Fantasia. We also have a part-time career coach on the Lawrence campus. And we'd be happy to make an appointment with you. Does everyone use Navigate? No?
I think that's a no.
That's a no? Okay. But you're all, I mean, you have Northern Essex IDs, right?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So if you were to go into the portal, actually, let me show you. So Navigate is our new tool for booking appointments. So let me show you how to do that real quick, just so you know. Because it's actually really helpful. You can book appointments with advising, you can book appointments with career services, etc. So down here, oh, no, hold on a second. So you know how to go into the portal, right, to my NECC, log into your account. You know how to do that, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna log into my portal right now. Right here, you'll see Student Navigate. So you'll go in here and just use your same login that you would for the portal account. You would log into your school account, and then you would literally go through the prompts to schedule an appointment, click on Career Services, and it will allow you to book an appointment. So you can book an appointment through Navigate for a variety of different reasons. For our services, I'll show you. This is what the Navigate logo. You can actually download it on your phone too. So you can either download it or go through the portal. But you can schedule appointments with us for a resume or cover letter review, for prepping for an interview, to set up your LinkedIn account, to explore careers, for help with job and internship search, and other things as well. So make sure, and if you have any questions, again, contact us. If you can't access Navigate for whatever reason, just reach out to us. We'll book you an appointment, no problem. So with that, I'm going to open it up to any questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I'm happy to answer anything that you might have questions about. I really appreciate your time today. And I hope this was informative and kind of a high-level overview of how you can pursue your jobs. Are there any questions that you have?
No questions? Oh, there's a hand up. Natalie, did you have a hand up?
Oh, I don't have a question now.
Okay. Great.
No? All right, well, please feel free to reach out to us. Again, we're here to help you. Happy to help with anything that you might have a question with. And thank you for letting me spend some time with you this morning, or this afternoon.
Ashley, thanks very much.
Yeah, no problem. Enjoy the nice weather in the upcoming days, guys.
Thank you, too.
See you
Thank
later. Bye.